Today is unlike anything we've ever done before. I'm the one being interviewed. Welcome to the Affiliate Guy podcast. If you want to grow your income, serve your tribe, and enjoy all the benefits of affiliate marketing and having your own affiliates, you're in the right place. Thanks for joining me today. Let's get started. So this episode is totally different. It is, like I said at the beginning, unlike anything we've ever done before. I'm the one being interviewed today. We recently did an epically long Facebook Live. We're going to break it up into 3 episodes. And we did this about if you remember the podcast series that we just did about my takeaways from Blackberry Farm and my time with Jeff Walker and Amy Porterfield and Michael Hyatt. And we did this long, episode series, right? 12 episode series. And we wanted to take it even deeper. So Mark Sieverkropp on my team interviewed me, and we took questions from people watching. It was one of our best Facebook Lives ever in terms of engagement, just all kinds of stuff. It was crazy, the comments that were coming in. And we had some really, really cool moments. I'll just say some of the comments were awesome. And so we're going to share that with you over the next 3 episodes. So stick around, and I'm just going to cut to that interview that Mark did with me. I kind of introduced you at the beginning, and then we get right into the interview. Some awesome stuff. So make sure to stick around for the next 3 episodes because they're going to be amazing. Really, really interesting today. I'm excited. I'm super pumped to be doing this. I'm also nervous because I have no idea what Mark is going to ask. Now, in full disclosure, I asked him to please put the question that he's asking me up in front of me at that time.
And I told you no.
So I do know the first question just because it's right behind the camera, but I have no idea what the other questions are. That's by design. We're just going to keep this kind of informal and whatnot. So quick backstory. Had an opportunity to spend 4 days at a place called Blackberry Farm. Just Google it. You guys will see just how amazing this place is. It's a place that's won pretty much every award you can imagine for customer service, for food, for hospitality. It's unreal place. And I got to hear the story of how this how this came about. Years ago when Michael Hyatt started his affiliate program for 5 days to your best year ever, he and Stu McLaren, who you've heard a lot about the last few days, Megan and Stu were having lunch or something, talking about prizes. And Megan just said, I want it to be something that's not, the everyday prizes. I don't want it to be cash. I don't want it to be whatever. Michael wants it to be an experience. And so they made it into an experience. All right. And so we have a podcast series. We had a 12 episode podcast series. Mark can drop the link to that if he hasn't already. And hey, Phil, and hey, Nicole. And so, by the way, if you guys are jumping on, we can't see you unless you let us know. So drop a comment, say hi, tell us where you're joining us from, all that stuff. Ask questions as we go along, all that stuff. But just want to be able to say hi to you as we're on here live. And so the top affiliates for Michael, the top 3 affiliates, got to go to Blackberry Farm. And so that's how we ended up there. So we did this 12 episode series on the podcast. Mark dropped the link. It's mattmcwilliams.com/Blackberry. And just to the takeaways, the things that I learned. Hanging out with Jeff Walker, Amy Porterfield, and Michael Hyatt, and their spouses and stuff, you'll learn a lot. And I certainly did. And it was just, it was one of the episodes is called It's My Mountaintop Experience. And I literally was on the top of Walker Mountain, ironically. And just had an amazing time, amazing stuff. And so what we wanted to do today was, yes, we did the podcast series, and that was the takeaways, the business and, whatnot takeaways. We wanted to take it kind of a layer deeper because it was just me, sitting there with my notes and talking about what I got out of this trip and, all the things that I got. We want to take it a step further. So Mark's going to interview me today and ask me a bunch of questions that I don't know. So, hey, Heather. And so we'll see. We'll see. Like, let's just jump into it, Mark, and ask these questions.
Yeah, you know, and see, Matt, this is cool for me because the minute you came back,
I've done this, by the way.
We have not, and we should do it more often. No, I'm just kidding. You know, one of the things that's exciting to me is the minute you came back. I mean, the first Monday you were back, you know, we didn't talk the whole week. You were gone, obviously. And so you got back and I'm like, okay, so tell me about it. And you'd done your whole Zeigarnik open loop thing and said, remind me to tell you what Chad Cannon said. And I'm like, all right, fine. What did Chad Cannon say?
I could have told you in a text, but that would it wasn't as cool. Like, I know because I think I said it's about you, didn't I?
You did. Yeah.
All right. No, so don't forget to ask me about that because I did not cover that. That's actually a really good topic of conversation, by the way, guys, is what Chad Cannon, that's Michael Hyatt, CMO, said about Mark at lunch one day. A really, actually, it was like a really, I don't know, life-changing moment for me, which is kind of weird because he said it about Mark, but you'll see why. And don't forget to ask me about that. Please ask me about that later. But yeah, this is the first time we've ever done this interview. So one thing I'll ask you guys, if we get through this unscathed and you guys like this format, you like this where Mark's interviewing me, let us know and we'll make sure we work these into the calendar more frequently. All right. So back to what you were saying. Yeah. So I just gotta say that was so cool because like I texted Mark, I'm like, dude, remind me to tell you what Chad Cannon said. He's like, what? And I was like, it's about you.
Never mind.
And for like 5 days. That happened on Tuesday at lunch. So for 6 days, Mark has no idea what Chad said about him. Good or bad? I think I may have said it was good. Don't worry.
You did tell me it was good.
But still, did he say, I like Mark's haircut?
Right.
And, you know, man, Mark just, you know, really has a great, what did he say? You know, hey, Tammy, one of our new starters, one of our new Start Mastermind members.
Can I just say before we jump in, Tammy, I like Tammy. She was so much fun yesterday. Like, we were talking. I mean, there's a cone of silence, so I'm not going to really say a ton of what was talked about. But good. One of the things that Tammy said that I thought was awesome is she's just like, I've done a lot of things in my life, and I just want to have fun. And I'm like, hey, we're going to get along great. I like having fun too.
Love it. So hi, Tammy.
All right. So so we talked, and you shared a ton of stuff. And so some of the questions, Matt, I think you may have mentioned it in a podcast episode, but it came more from the conversations we had because you shared some really cool stuff as well. But the first thing I wanted to ask you was, and you even mentioned it in the introduction here, is you referred, as I was listening back through all these episodes, you referred to this as a mountaintop experience for you several times. So you may have mentioned it in a podcast. Why is that? And turn me off so I don't hear me in the background. Jeez Louise.
I'm trying to respond to Glenn.
So, I mean, why was this such a mountaintop experience for you? And what do you mean by that?
Well, it was a bit of play on words because I literally recorded a podcast episode about 80% down a mountain and called Walker Mountain, which is fun. It's like day 3 of spending, 4 days with Jeff Walker. And then there's like 3 mountains you can climb at Blackberry Farm, and one of them is Walker Mountain. And we chose that because we only had like an hour and 45 minutes, and it was the lowest one. And so we chose that because otherwise we would never have made dinner that night. And so we climbed up to the top of Walker Mountain. Actually, I didn't post this picture. I wish I had my phone on me. I could show you guys. So we climb up and we're coming down, and I remember like standing at the top. Well, take that back. What I thought was the top of the mountain. It turns out there's another 200 feet because you go up to the top and then you go like it levels off and you go around for a while. And it's kind of like you're going to come back and then go a bit down. And no, you go up another 200 feet. And I'm like, oh, crap. And there's a yoga platform at this point. So it's like, it makes sense if there's this yoga platform, you would do that at the top of the mountain, not 200 feet before the top of the mountain. Right. And so anyway, I get up there and this spot opens up. Like it's just trees, nothing but trees and trees. Right. And then no joke, the width of like maybe 2 big, I've got a big screen TV on the other side of this where I'm seeing everything. 2 of those, it is like 8 feet wide. That's it. 8 feet wide. There's this opening and it looks right down the property. So you look over the lake, you look over the barns, you see the inns in the background. You can see some of the homes that are on the property. and you see the horses down below, and it is just beautiful. And so I stopped and I asked Tara about it, and she's like, no, I never saw it, because she kept going. But I'm like, fiddle farting around behind her, like, oh, pictures, like I'm taking pictures of everything. Like I got pictures of like pine cones, and I take this picture of this spot, and I'm sitting there at dinner next to Jeff that night. And he's like, yeah, there's this spot when you get up on Walker Mountain. And he's like, I took a picture of it. And I'm like, wait a minute. Was it this one? And we're like, it's the exact same picture, and it was so cool. And so, but as I'm standing at that moment, again, not at the top of the mountain, I don't know what this thought, like the flood of not emotions, but just like this thought came over me. How did I get here? And I don't mean like, well, I went over the creek and then, up
the river and through the woods
steps, and then I did the zigzag up for like 800 feet. And then I walked around, and then, and I had to get here that way. Although, admittedly, I was so out of breath that I was thinking, how did I get here? Who am I?
What room am I staying in?
Look it up, Jim Gaffigan. What room am I staying in? You'll see it. And I was literally like, how did I get here? And so I was thinking back, and it was just one of those things where I like stood there. I mean, perfect weather. I don't know if you guys have ever had one of those experiences where it's just like you're in a place where you're not normally there. I'm not normally, 85% up a mountain. I'm not normally, like, I don't normally feel the breeze. I don't normally feel the sunlight, and I'm not normally like the perfect temperature. I don't know if anybody if you ever notice that, like, most of us are usually a little too hot. We're a little too cold, and this is like Goldilocks, And so I'm just feeling this stuff. And I'm thinking, how did I get here? And so I start thinking back to just the beginnings and our journey and all that stuff. And I went, how I got here was at the very beginning of the year, probably in January. We set an irrational goal to be one of Michael's top 3 affiliates. And I remember telling you, Mark, like, I get it. That might not be the best use of our time in the short run financially. We could probably do better things to make more money in that period of time, but I wanted it. And I wanted it for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to be there at Blackberry Farm. I wanted to hang out. I knew Jeff was going to be there. I knew Jeff Walker was going to be one of the top 3, because he's always one of the top 3. And I figured it might be, Pat Flynn or Ryan Levesque possibly would be the other, the other two, one of the other two. And it's irrational, or as Jeff Walker would say, word of the year, unreasonable. It's unreasonable for me to be there with any of those guys based on where we're at in our journey. It turned out that Pat was one of the top 3, but he couldn't make it. So Michael and his team invited Amy Porterfield, which was, just as awesome. And because I'm a huge fan of hers. And so it was unreasonable. We set that goal and we pointed to it for the whole year. So that was number 1, is I wanted to be there with them. Number 2, I just wanted to prove that we could do it. I wanted to prove to myself, and I wanted to prove to, I think it really was just to myself. I didn't really want to prove to anybody else. I didn't really have anybody else to prove anything to. I just wanted to prove to myself that we could do that, because we had finished years ago. We had finished 5th, and then we finished 4th, and we were always so freaking close. I was like, no, we are going to finish top 3. And so the mountaintop experience was just the realization of, we set a ridiculously ambitious goal. Hey, Jim, and we achieved it. Mm-hmm. And we achieved it. And it was just like, this kind of sounds woo-woo, guys. I realize that. But I don't have many moments like this. I truly don't. I wish I did. Where, it was almost like the scene out of a movie where I sat there at the top of the mountain. And I remember my arms just fell down like this. And the wind was perfect. And I received it. I'm not one of those people who typically receives things. Like my favorite 2 words are what's next? What's next? What's next? All right, great. We did that. Like even today, like boom, yesterday we just finished, hey Dell, we just finished our best affiliate promotion ever. We're going to talk about that on the Facebook Live next week. We just capped off our best affiliate promotion. You know what? I celebrated for you know what we did? We went to breakfast as a family this morning, and I'm like, what's next? What's next? That was the entire celebration. But in this moment on that mountain, I went like this. And I breathed deeply, and the air was cleaner. I mean, I'm in the Great Smoky Mountains, so of course the air is cleaner. It's ironic because they're not smoky at all. It's like Dumb and Dumber, man. I thought the Rocky Mountains would be a whole lot rockier than this. Anyway, and I'm just like that. And I remember going, you know what? We did it. So that was my mountaintop experience.
Nice. I like it. So, I had the thought when you mentioned Dumb and Dumber, it's like, okay, what's the next pop culture reference going to be on this? And it's got to be a Brian Regan something. I'm not sure what.
It probably does.
It's going to be. No, and it was so cool. And we can get more into this. And this is where I go off the rails before we even start with the questions. So you're welcome for adding the questions that aren't going to be the right ones. But, you talk about, how did I get here? And, we set this goal. But I know from conversations with you, and I know also, Matt, from conversations that we've had in a room with Jeff Walker, that Jeff will see this at some point. You were pretty dang excited to be hanging out with Jeff Walker. I mean, and Michael Hyatt, and Michael's been a client and you know him and your friends, but it's still, I mean, these three are people that you look up to and you have for a long time. So what's the, I don't even know how to ask this question, but how do you go from being kind of a fanboy at times to realizing you're in the same room with these people? You've earned the right to be in the room with these people and that you have things of value to add to them. Because I remember some conversations you and I had where there was different things that you told Jeff, and gave feedback and you were able to do so. So what was that dynamic like? And how did did it change throughout the week? Or, was there things they did that made you feel more comfortable? Or, just what was that dynamic?
I think a lot of my background has a lot to do with being comfortable with that. Like I grew up in Nashville. I grew up in the two places I lived for a good part of my life were just outside of Atlanta and just outside of Nashville. And when we lived outside of Atlanta, the golf course my dad ran was where all the athletes played. So it was like nothing. We always had seats front row, third baseline, like talking to the players. And my dad played with the players. It was nothing for my dad. I mean, I've played with, music, Garth Brooks' manager. I've played with the guys from REM, not Michael Stipes. I've actually never met Michael, but was it Mike Mills and Bill Berry? I think were the two that we played with at a golf course that's like the 7th ranked golf course in the world. And so I will say, and I say none of that to brag. I say that to say like having that as my background. Growing up at a golf course where it's like me and then Clint Black and then the head coach for the Tennessee Titans, and they're just guys. Definitely contributes to the fact that I'm able to like not be like, internally I'm like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Clint Black and Jeff Fisher. Internally I'm like we go out in the middle of the golf course one day, me and my dad, and I'm literally I'm like, all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, I'm playing golf with Vince Gill. Like, and it was the funniest thing, just side note, he is like the single most normal person I've ever met in my life. He's actually a bit of a dork. Just as a side note. And it was so it became one of those things where like internally I'm like, oh, and I'm like, we didn't have smartphones back then, or I'd been like, selfie, look, mom, because my mom is like the biggest Vince Gill fan in the world. And so, I was like, hey, can I get like a signed picture for my mom, and stuff like that internally, but I'm like freaking out, but I had to learn how to manage that. And so I think having that practice for, 15, 20 years contributes to the ability to function and not come across like a dork. But you're right. Like I can come on. That's why I was nervous to do this, because it's like, there's the side of me that's like, yeah, I was hanging out with Jeff Walker, Amy Porterfield, Michael Hyatt. And I say it like that, but the backstory, which is like, and then what was it like? Jeff Walker touched me, not in an inappropriate way, but did you see, he said my name. And so there is that aspect of it. And I totally forget the question. I was like, how do you function?
Yeah. What was the dynamic like? And did it change throughout the week where, I mean, did you go in knowing that you were going to be able to provide a ton of value for these people, or did it kind of grow into as the week went on?
I would love to say that no, and I discovered something, and I found my superpower Tuesday afternoon. I knew I would. I think it's, I think just because of the people that we've worked with, I mean, you work with somebody like Kevin Harrington, who's a, half a billionaire and, has had all the success he has. And when I can sit at a table with him and go just boom, 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 and contribute to him, and he's going, whoa, I figure I can probably do that with, other people. And so I think experience helps, but at the same time, I'll just, again, this being 1,000,000% honest, there is that moment where when I say something and he goes, huh, that's a good idea. I go inside, I'm like, yes. So yeah, there is that moment.
I mean, because, and there's a couple of things that I made note of as I was listening through the episodes preparing for this. One was you made the comment to them that you felt like a wiener in a steakhouse.
I did.
And so there is that, oh my gosh, these guys are super, super successful. And you even made that comment, like they are way more successful than you are. And I mean, that's, and I love which episode is it? It's like comparisons and something. I don't remember. On
comparisons and insecurity.
Yes.
And I share the two quotes that if you guys have followed us for a while, that John Acuff says, never compare your beginning to someone else's middle or end.
Wasn't that Stephen Furtick?
No. Stephen Furtick says the reason we and I'm going to butcher this by a couple of words. The reason we struggle, maybe that is John Acuff. No, the reason we struggle with insecurity, Stephen Furtick says, the reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel.
That's right.
And so that's the day. And we talked about this the last day at lunch or at breakfast, with Michael and Jeff. Amy had already left. And our spouses are there too, and they're contributing a lot. And it was really interesting to get their perspective because they're not like in social media. They're not doing social media for business.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting to get their perspectives because I've never really been that big on social media. I don't spend a lot of time, and I don't really follow anybody that I don't know on some level. And I only follow, about 12 people, and I kind of know they're behind the scenes anyway. So I'm not seeing their highlight reel and going, golly, why is my life not as good as theirs? You compare anybody's highlight reel. You compare, let's just find like the most success. You compare Bill Gates behind the scenes to somebody with 1,000 Twitter followers highlight reel. And that highlight reel is going to be better than Bill Gates behind the scene because guess what? Gosh, I don't know how to say this without just being totally crass. Guess what? Bill Gates gets diarrhea too. I mean, how else? I don't know how else to say that. Bill Gates I think he has kids. Bill
you
Gates
heard it here
had
first,
kids
folks.
with streaming, right? Bill Gates, like everybody, you know what? Your kids aren't perfect and your kids do stupid stuff. And sometimes it's funny and sometimes it makes you want to pull your, well, clearly Mark had more of these than me. But like in all seriousness, that's life. We don't post that crap on Instagram. Yeah. Most people don't. Most people, at least in our business, don't get on Instagram and post about the fact that it's like, post about the fact that their webinar broke and this or that, and that they were ready to, 6 hours ago, they were ready to quit on their online business. Nobody posts that on Instagram.
Yeah.
They post on Instagram, getting ready to go live for my webinar. Look how amazing my setup is. That's what they post. So we look at that and go, wow, they have a better setup than me. Wow, they have, better live streaming technology. You're seeing the highlights.
Yeah.
You're seeing you're seeing 30 seconds out of their entire freaking day and judging your 23 hours, 59 minutes and 30 seconds by that. So yeah, that was, those are two quotes that I've lived by.
I love what Tammy said. And she said, how are you defining success?
Yeah.
And then she said, I think we're all successful just being here. We each are special or are special in different ways. And I think, that's exactly it. But, from the conversations I had with you, I think it's just, it's that tension, of, they're far along, knowing that they're farther along, knowing that they've been in business longer, knowing they've had more life experience, all these things, and being okay with, I'm not quite there yet, but also that tension of that's where I want to be, and how do I get to that point and what can I learn from them? And so I think that, as I was thinking about that, that's kind of what I was thinking through, is the fact that, I think it's good for us to remember that we're not where other people are and we haven't had the experiences they've had. But at the same time, I think it's also good that we look at that and say, oh my gosh, I do want to be where they're at. I do want to have that kind of business, or I do want to be able to do those sorts of things, because that's what, at least for me, motivates me. And it helps me to want to get to those points. So a super cool experience there.
All right. So that was part 1 of this series. Keep coming back for the next 2 parts. And if you want to see the Facebook Live, if you want to just I want to get the rest. I got an episode or a link in the show notes for this episode. A link in the show notes. Go check that out, and you can watch the Facebook Live. Drop us a comment and do all that stuff. With that, I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening today. Remember to check out all of our deep dives into affiliate marketing at theaffiliateguy.tv. And if you have a question, you can ask it at asktheaffiliateguy.com. Who knows? Might end up being featured on this podcast.